Craving your next action-packed adventure? Audible delivers thrills of every kind on your command, like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, where a lone astronaut must save humanity from extinction, narrated with stunning intensity by Ray Porter. From electrifying suspense and daring quest to spine-tingling horror and romance in far-off realms, unleash your adventurous side with gripping titles that'll keep you guessing. Discover exclusive Audible originals, hotly anticipated new releases, and must-listen bestsellers that hook you from the first minute. Because Audible knows there's no greater thrill than the one that speaks to you. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat. Start your free 30-day trial at audible.com/WonderyUS. That's audible.com/WonderyUS.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike Gibby Gibson, and this is True Crime All the Time Unsolved, episode 56. And with me, as always, is Michael the Ferg Ferguson. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on, Gibby?
What's happening?
You see that? That's how you
Is that
get
how it goes?
fired up.
It's a little role reversal.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a long time. I wanted to hear what it would sound like when you do it.
It doesn't sound as good as you when you
I
do
loved it, man. I thought you did a great job.
Just helping you out because I know you're not feeling too good, man.
Nah, this flu is going around my family, and right now my voice is pretty strong, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know. Have a hold up? I hope so.
See if we can get through this episode.
Yeah. So you want to do a little Patreon action?
Got to.
All right.
Got a bunch of new supporters. We have Brittany Frazier, Kristen Miller,
Yeah.
Brian Butts,
BB.
Kelly Louise,
Yeah, I've told you how I say that one. Kelly Louise.
Kim Pasqualini.
Yeah, I like that. Pasqualini.
Heather Easley jumped out at our highest level.
Yep, thank you.
Kelly Hill,
Awesome.
Phoebe Abdul, Lauren Kirk,
Thank you, Lauren.
Kristen Kendall, Michael Hopkins,
Yeah,
Allison Howard jumped out at our highest level.
that's big. Thank you.
Athena Dawn,
Yeah.
Princess Warrior.
Princess. Does it say Princess Warrior? You just added that?
No, it doesn't say that. I just, that name just kind of evokes
That's like ballsy, man, to call yourself the Princess Warrior.
I'm calling her the Princess Warrior.
Okay.
It just, that name just evokes like
Yeah.
like a strength.
Yeah. It's like
Athena. We had the Sucka Free podcast.
the Saka. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
But I really hope that when we're all done today, we go back. Like we're okay with it.
Yeah. I didn't check it out ahead of time. I mean, they're supporting us, which we love that. It's
Absolutely.
great. I'm not sure what the podcast is about, but I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. So you're making us look, which means everybody listening is going to look. So
exactly. A little free
good
free
job.
advertising
Good
for the
job. Good thinking.
Sucka Free podcast.
That's right.
Did you ever watch that movie, I'm Gonna Get You, Sucka?
Saka. Clearly I did.
I love that movie.
Don't
It
ask me
cracks
who's in
up.
it, though.
But you know me, man. Any dumb movie like that,
Yeah. You're in?
any parody or, Naked Gun, Airplane, Princess Bride, anything where it's
Yeah.
kind of fun, dumb, funny, love it.
Well, you're like the movie I'm working on then.
Will you?
Yeah.
Just called Gibby.
No, but it's not bad. That's not bad.
The World According to Gibby.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had Christy Kruk Skinner,
Yep.
Colleen Connor,
Thank you.
Sivakwa Laughlin,
Sivakwa.
which is a very cool name to say.
It is.
Which is why we keep saying it over and over. That's why Gibby keeps repeating
I
it.
know it.
Robert Sabo jumped out at our highest level.
Thank you.
Denor Golitz
Yeah, good job. I think you nailed it.
might have.
Yeah.
I might be so far off, it's not even funny.
Yeah, well,
Nikki Preston
Thank you, Nikki.
and Allison Hardwick.
Awesome.
So a lot of new Patreon support. within the last couple of weeks. Now, if you didn't hear your name, I'm a little behind.
It's coming.
If you were in the last few days or within the last few weeks, your name probably won't be until next episode.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get people reaching out saying, hey, you forgot my name.
We never forget
I promise you we didn't.
We got you.
It's just that there's so many, we have to limit how many we can say each episode. Yeah. So if we go back into the Patreon vault, this week we selected Janet Graydon. Janet is a great supporter, been with us month after month a very long time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, big shout out to Janet and all the people that support us month after month, the new supporters. Gibby and I say this, but we couldn't do what we're doing financially without your support. We just couldn't keep doing it. And then on PayPal, Gibbs, we had some great support as well. We had Keita Powless, Shelly Williams, James Dowling gave a sizable donation, as well as Nicole Barvian.
Thank you, everybody.
No, definitely. And then we had Michelle Mason and Aki Asolo.
Oh, yeah. Hans.
You think related to Han Solo somehow, in some way?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a story I'd be telling if I had that name.
Well, it's not spelled anywhere near the same.
I wouldn't tell them how I spell it. I would just say it.
It has an A in front of the Solo.
I would just say it as the way I'd wanted them to hear it. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for your support.
Make sure you check out the Merch Mart. We got some good stuff out there. Some good feedback coming out from different people that, have gotten the dog bandanas. They look really, really good. We've seen the fleeces. Man, those are sharp. Seen the jogging sweatpants. I know on the T-Fit group, I know Haley got a pair. She said they're super soft. I know that Joan got a pair. She even posted a couple pictures of her wearing them. They look really good. It's got the embroiled logo.
And it's also embroidered.
Yeah.
So
either one.
You got that going for you. If you order it, it'll be both embroiled by Gibby.
That's right.
And then the real manufacturer will come along and embroider it as well.
Embroidered. Embroidered. So I feel like Mo Curley and
that's what it sounds like.
Anyway, good stuff. Check it out. Get you some. And then if you're not going to CrimeCon yet, think about going. Get on the site and get your CrimeCon passes, man, and use TCAT with a double T and get yourself your 10% discount.
Yeah, and you and I keep saying it, but if you're on the fence, just do it.
Yeah.
You will not regret going to CrimeCon. It is a blast.
Have you ever regretted something that you just did? Just do it.
Did you just say if you've ever regretted something you just did?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it.
But
again.
They already regretted the first thing they did.
I meant, do it again. Just do this.
Do it again so you can regret it again.
Do it better next time. I remember. I'll do it better this time.
In rare form. Love it.
So, TCAT. Really, really good subject this week on episode 66.
Yeah, Wayne Adam Ford, serial killer, American serial killer. But a strange twist to this one, Gibbs, and I mean, I'm not giving anything away here, but this is a serial killer who ends up turning himself in to police.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we talk about his childhood, we talk about the crimes committed and the victims and all of that, but that part of it is just, something that you and I have not seen in any of the cases that we've done. Frankly, I haven't seen it in the research. I'm sure it's happened before.
Right.
More than once, but I just haven't seen it. All right. Are you ready to get into the subject of this week's episode?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Unsolved. We're talking about the Icebox Murders.
Yeah, it's chilling.
It is chilling.
Yeah.
It's also snowing outside, so...
Yeah, but them saying it's chilling, because Icebox Murders, chilling. You get it?
I got the pun.
I just wasn't sure if you were getting it.
No, I got it.
I work really hard.
I'm semi-sharp. I can get
pull that out of my head.
I thought you were going to say you pulled it out of somewhere else, because that's really where it came from.
A lot of things I say do come from that other area too, so no one's going to deny that.
But it was on June 23rd, 1965, that the Houston Police Department received a call from an individual who was a relative of Fred and Edwina Rogers. So we're in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
And the person that called, they were concerned because they had not seen or even heard from the Rogers.
Yeah. And eventually it will come out that it was the aunt that called because she was in constant contact with Edwina and just haven't heard for a while. So she got really concerned and really just needed a welfare check.
So Houston police would dispatch Officer C.M. Bullock and his partner to the residence where the Rogers lived. And this was located at 1815 Driscoll in Montrose. And just to give a little bit of clarification about Montrose, it's a suburb of Houston, and they actually call it the heart of Houston. So this is kind of centrally located in the city. And now we're talking 1965, right? Today, this is a very diverse area.
Yeah, it's one of those trendy type of neighborhoods today.
All like a melting pot, all kinds of
Yes.
different people living there. I'm assuming they've revitalized that.
Exactly. You got the old mansion style homes to the bungalows to the cute little cottages and things like that. So,
And I love that cities are doing that. Even our city here, Dayton, is trying to do that in certain areas.
Yeah, I love some of the things that are going downtown Dayton and the farmers market and the lofts and the things
So
like
I mean,
that.
they're basically taking what has over the years become a dilapidated street where a lot of the houses are in disrepair and have issues,
right.
and either the city's doing it or some company or somebody's coming in, buying them up, turning them into, like what you said, lofts, or it's just great for these different cities to do that.
I mean, Detroit's a good example of what they've done here recently with some of the things with the downtown and with some of the businesses that have really invested money into it as well. It's really sharp.
Yeah, you talk about Detroit. When I lived in Detroit in the late 90s, to go downtown, that was a scary proposition.
Oh, I bet.
Right.
Man. Yeah.
This was prior to the casinos coming in and a lot of the revitalization. That was a scary thing to do. It wasn't something that you would mark on your calendar to say, hey, let's go downtown and see what's going on.
Yeah, you probably 5 Mile and below, man. You needed to be concerned,
Yeah, probably more about 8 Mile and below.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You want to sing a little 8 Mile?
No. Won't be any singing on today's episode.
I was down on 5 Mile and I thought I was in a war zone. So that's what I remember.
I love Detroit. I loved it when I lived there. But to be honest, there are some rough areas. There's as there are in any big city.
Sure. But I tell you what, that it's turned around and they've got some. It's turning around, but they've got some good corporate businesses there that are making it an effort.
So when the officers arrived, initially they didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but no one answered the door, so they forced their way into the home. And once inside, even, they didn't see anything out of place. It didn't look like, it wasn't ransacked. There didn't look like there was some huge fight or something had gone on. And actually, they would see that the dining room table still had food out on it. And this would prompt the officer to look inside the refrigerator, and everything appeared normal. There were large amounts of what appeared to be unwrapped meat in there. So maybe, pig, hog, or beef or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
but large amounts.
Yeah, he would say that he thought it looked like someone just butchered, a hog. I don't know if you ever butchered. Have you ever butchered meat?
I have not.
So I've butchered a hog before.
That is not in my repertoire.
Yeah, you should do it at least once. That's all it takes. And then
I've done chickens. I've killed chickens and
I got to experience the hog. So it's definitely different color meat. I mean, clearly at the supermarket you see that anyway, but it's a something you'll never forget.
Like doing a podcast with you.
Like doing a podcast with me.
Something I'll never forget.
Exactly right. But he would say that it looked like hog meat. It was super clean, washed off, because that's what you do, right? I mean, you make you hose, make your first cut, and you rinse and cut, and then you go ahead and let it dry for a second, and then stack it and wrap it.
Flip it, rub it down.
Flip it, rub it down.
All right, so after we've learned Gibby's experience with butchering a hog.
Yeah.
So getting back to this police officer, he sees this meat, and as he goes to close the door to the refrigerator, his eyes are drawn to something else.
Sure are.
And it's the severed heads of Fred and Edwina Rogers.
Would freak me out.
And they're looking straight at this officer through one of those, like the vegetable drawer.
Yeah.
Right? The one you pull out.
Right.
And so I'm assuming that's why he didn't immediately see them.
Yeah, because they're at the very bottom.
So, wow.
Yeah. Freaky.
That's how we're starting this bad boy out.
Yeah. How's your sandwich tasting now?
Now, that unwrapped meat that we talked about, that is later going to be identified as the limbs and part of the torso of the couple.
For whatever reason, the person that did this was extremely good with cutting, and at sight, you wouldn't be able to tell that it was human flesh. So she did a really good job of butchering the bodies.
And there's no other way to, I don't know what other words you would use.
Yeah.
And I would have to think, Gibbs, that could be a potential clue to who this killer is. It has to be somebody that, now, not to say that somebody with no experience couldn't do it.
Right.
But you would have to look at people that, just like you talked about, had experience with maybe butchering hogs or butchering other animals. Maybe somebody that had experience with in medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
That knew anatomy and knew, things like that. Now, a couple of days later after this find, authorities would find the couple's organs in a nearby sewer line, because apparently what happened is that the killer had chopped and flushed their organs down the toilet. But there would be parts of the couple's bodies that were never found. The police and the coroner would determine that the couple was killed on June 20th, 1965, so about 3 days before they were found. And this was Father's Day.
Yeah. Happy holiday.
And one of the pieces of information that they used to make this determination was that they found a piece of newspaper from that June 20th day that had blood on it. The autopsy would say that Fred was killed by repeated blows to the head with a claw hammer.
That's brutal, man. A claw hammer?
That is a brutal way to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, his head was completely crushed in. Both of his eyes were gouged out. And even his genitalia had been completely removed.
Yeah, man. That's not a robbery gone bad kind of killing.
No.
This is somebody that really didn't like somebody. To gouge the eyes out, cut the head off, gouge the eyes, cut off your junk.
No, I would say normally in that situation, to do something like that either means there's some rage involved against those specific people.
Right.
Or you got sometimes we see it in serial killers that we profile on True Crime all the time.
Yeah.
That are into some very strange things like that. But a lot, to remove someone's genitalia, wow.
So one thing we didn't mention up front is that Fred is 81 and Edwina is 72. So it's an older couple.
And I think it's important for you to point that out because, Gibbs, who in the hell has beef with an 81-year-old man?
Oh, yeah.
72-year-old woman.
Exactly. To the point that someone's going to come in do what they did. They're going to go over and see Edwina. They're going to beat her severely. So they're beating a 71-year-old or 72-year-old woman severely, and then they're going to shoot her execution style.
Most likely, right? There's always outliers, but most likely this 81-year-old man, 72-year-old woman, married couple is not into running drugs, not into owing the mob a bunch of money, right? I mean, a lot of those scenarios where you would think somebody would have a beef with them, you just can't imagine this type of elderly couple being involved with.
Yeah, I think initially you come into the scene, you're pretty complex.
Well, it leads me, and I know we're early on, but if I just was thinking about it with no other factors, I would immediately think, okay, maybe family.
Right.
Maybe it has something to do with inheritance money.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Right.
I wouldn't be thinking vendetta. I wouldn't be thinking,
right.
Grudge. Now, investigators were able to determine that Fred and Edwina were dismembered in an upstairs bathroom, but someone took very special care in draining the blood from their bodies prior to the dismemberment. And police had thought that, this was a person, like we mentioned with the dismemberment, this was a person that probably had a good amount of knowledge of the anatomy of the human body.
I started to say, you would have to have really good knowledge to pull that off, right?
Or get lucky as hell.
Yeah, man, I just don't know.
And how the best way, I don't know, how many people know what's the best way to drain a body? I'm sure some of our listeners do, but it's not that's common knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how to actually get every ounce of blood out of the system. It's not like you're going to have like a tub that's on rotating wheels that you can spin around to get the force to, get the blood to come out.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you've watched Dexter many times like I have.
Yeah.
And a lot of our listeners have.
Yeah, so
Dexter was kind of an expert in areas like that. But in 1965, so let's keep that in mind. 65 is like a whole different era.
Didn't have the technology, the advances and things that we have today.
You couldn't Google, how do I do this?
Right.
You didn't have the type of television shows that we have today that, even though some are more accurate than others, provide people with
detail,
some kind of detail on how to do things.
Yeah. How to drain a body. You're seeing it on one of those how-to shows here soon.
Yeah, I can tell you, sure as shit, Gibbs, they weren't draining bodies on the Andy Griffith show in 1965, right, in Mayberry. You weren't going to learn how to do that from the type of television that they had back then. So I think that's a pretty good theory by police. And they didn't find very much blood at all. So again, this person, or multiple people, right, we don't know, took very special care and did a very thorough job of cleaning up what had to have been a very messy scene.
Must have been a lot of bleach used because they could smell that chlorine smell in the bathroom. And like you said, there just wasn't a lot of trace left besides what they found on the one newspaper, a couple drops, and a couple other drops that they're going to find throughout the investigation. That's it. To do what they did to two bodies, and that's all the blood they find? Wow. I mean, really, think about it.
Well, but the other part I go to is they probably knew that they had some time.
Yeah.
That they could take their time, right?
Sure.
We know that these bodies aren't found for 3 days.
They're sitting around for a while.
So they, the killer or killers may have known the schedule of this couple, may have known that the likelihood of somebody coming over was very small. And maybe they were able to take a great amount of time in doing it. Now, one small blood trail they did find was from the bathroom leading into the bedroom of Fred and Edwina's son, Charles Rogers' bedroom. They would find a keyhole saw with traces of blood on it, But Charles was nowhere to be found. So very quickly, the police put out a warrant for him as a potential material witness to this crime. And I don't know, Gibbs, at that point, it could have been a lot of things, right? Did they think he had something to do with it? Did they think he saw it? Did they think he was a victim? Either way, they wanted to talk to him.
Yeah, they wanted to get a hold of him and find out what's going on.
But really, Gibbs, this is where the trail goes cold. Charles was last seen the day before his parents were killed on West Clay Street picking up suits from a dry cleaner. And I think we have to spend a little bit of time taking a look at Charles Rogers. He was born on December 30th, 1921, and like we said, was last seen the day before his parents were murdered, which would have been June 19th, 1965. And Charles had what was described as a rough childhood. His parents were alcoholics, and it was reported that he had to deal with both physical and mental abuse. And after the death of Fred and Edwina, some of the relatives would come out and say that, they wouldn't be surprised if Charles had something to do with their deaths. And I think, Gibbs, this came from the relatives having an understanding of how Fred and Edwina had treated Charles during his childhood. Charles had an older sister who died at the age of 10 in 1929. Now, this guy was known as very intelligent, maybe even brilliant, but he was also erratic and very reclusive.
Yeah, very, very much reclusive.
Like Howard Hughes type recluse.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not to that level. I don't know that anybody has ever been at the Howard Hughes level, but I didn't read anything about the fact that he was peeing in jars and things like that, but that's Howard Hughes level.
Hey, I had to pee in peanut butter jars on long trips growing up because my dad didn't want to pull over.
So I had this story about one of my relatives. They had a piss pot.
Yeah.
That they would use. It was two girls.
Yeah.
And the dad, like you said, didn't want to stop.
Right.
They're making good time. We can't
right.
stop.
Can't stop.
So apparently it would fling it out the window.
Oh, okay.
And
nice.
I mean, this is the old days, I guess.
Yeah.
And at one point it splashed back onto the car. And apparently, I guess, through the heat and that substance, caused the paint to completely peel off.
Oh my gosh! Wow!
I remember my relatives telling me stories about that.
Acid or something.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, well, my kids have to go. We just pull over.
That's what I do too. I just go ahead and stop. It only takes a few minutes.
Stretch my legs. Buy a Pepsi.
Yeah. I seem to still get where I need to be. I don't know what the rush was back then.
Back then, man, it was all about making good time.
It was, man. Gotta make good time. Good time. Here's your soggy peanut butter sandwich that was been in the brown paper bag since I left this morning, and it's 5 hours later. Here you go.
Right.
Or your bologna sandwich.
So getting back to Charles, he studied at Texas A&M University for a while, but he left there and went to the University of Houston.
Cougars.
Houston Cougars.
Yeah.
What's Texas A&M?
The Aggies.
Yeah, very good.
Well, I mean, I know my stuff.
Very good.
I know my Texas peeps.
You're big in Texas.
Everything's big
Everything's
in Texas.
big in Texas.
That's right.
But he would earn his bachelor's of science in nuclear physics.
Oh, right up there with old Gibby.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Let's talk shop.
This guy might be as smart as you, Gibbs.
I don't know, but we can talk shop. We can see where we can go with it.
On nuclear physics?
Well, that or anything else.
Now, he could speak 7 different languages.
Oh, well, I got 8.
You got at least 7 or 8.
Yeah, I don't know if I do them very well, but I try.
And many more impersonations of different languages, dialects.
Oh, absolutely.
You got that down cold.
Yeah, I've been every country in my head.
For some reason, they always drift back to English and Scottish, no matter where they start out at.
Just some really bad mix of all that, yeah.
But Charles would also serve in World War II, and he served as a Navy pilot and then later in the Office of Naval Intelligence.
That's impressive.
And once Charles returned home from the war, he began working as a seismologist for Shell Oil. And he worked there for over 9 years.
Big company.
He left that job in 1957, but apparently he was well known in that industry for being able to locate oil and gas fields.
Which would be a pretty important skill.
That'd be a great skill to have in Texas.
Yeah, you'd want that guy on your team.
And you would think you could make a lot of money with that type of skill.
Yeah, he could go show you where you can go and drink somebody else's milkshake.
What the hell does that mean?
What? You never seen that movie? I'll drink your milkshake.
What movie is it?
It's the movie with Daniel Day-Lewis. He's like the oil king.
Oh, I've seen it.
Remember, he's got the kid down in the bowling alley.
Yeah.
Basement bowling alley. I'll drink your milkshake.
The thing blows up.
Yeah.
Covers him in oil.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he'll take away to siphon even though he can't be on that person's land, he doesn't have rights, he can still find a way to tunnel, siphon that oil out, and drink your milkshake, man.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very obscure reference from a movie that not that many people have probably seen.
But it won all kind of Academy Awards. He does a movie every 10 years, it seems like.
And he wins an Academy Award.
Then he goes back to his place somewhere in England or somewhere and does his cobbling.
Dude, I'm telling you, we talk a lot about what movies come on.
Yeah.
Gangs of New York.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is in the top probably 5.
You know why I like that one?
Of my all-time favorites. What?
The knife skills.
The knife skills.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis has some knife skills.
He did.
He's a great actor. There's no doubt about that.
But it's got so many great actors in it.
It does.
Which is, it's just an incredible movie.
You start these conversations.
I told you Daniel Day-Lewis was in it. That's all I should have to say. Boom. Drop the mic. Walk away.
You said, I'll drink your milkshake.
I know.
Right, and there, out of that...
Know. Right now, people are screaming at you saying, how could you not know?
I'm
drink
supposed
your milkshake.
To, pull an obscure Daniel Day-Lewis movie out of my arsehole. Oh, my goodness.
It was a good movie, man.
It wasn't bad. I watched it now that I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right. From Daniel Day-Lewis back to Charles Rogers.
Yes. Not Mr. Rogers.
Not Mr. But although we didn't talk about that, Fred Rogers is the name of Mr. Rogers.
He is. I know it. It's a good day in the neighborhood.
It is. Man, I watched that show.
I should have changed out of my gym shoes and put on my slippers.
Changed out of your loafers. He always wore like loafers or something, didn't he?
Maybe
put on like sneakers or something.
For you, you'd be changing out of your sneakers into your whatever those things are called.
Mucklucks.
You love your
I like my mucklucks.
Mucklucks.
We are so far off topic right now.
We are. We better circle back.
So Charles Rogers, in addition to being this expert on locating oil and gas, he was also known for skills in finding precious metals as well.
And he had those skills as a geophysicist.
He joined the Civil Air Patrol, and this is where he would meet a man by the name of David Ferrie. And if we're talking about movies, we're talking about a good one.
Absolutely.
In the form of JFK.
Yeah.
And in that movie, David Ferrie is played by Joe Pesci. Very colorful character in that movie.
Yeah.
But he was thought to have been a conspirator in the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, sure was.
So very strange tie-in between Charles Rogers and the real David Ferrie. So we talked about Charles being a recluse. And it was said that he would only talk to his parents through notes that he would slip under the door, and then they would turn around and write him notes and slip them under his door as well.
Really? He was just ahead of his time. He just didn't have an iPhone.
So he was sending like emails.
Yeah, text messages.
Or text messages.
Yeah. Hey, Mom, bring me some meatloaf.
Mom, the meatloaf!
Yeah. So that's strange, right? That you're living in this house and all you're doing is passing notes underneath the door to your parents. So there's definitely something there.
Well, and he's an adult. He's a grown man.
Yeah.
This is not a 12-year-old child that's throwing a tantrum and doesn't want to come out of their room.
So what's the backstory there, right? I mean, clearly we've heard there was stories of abuse and alcohol and other things that will come about, but not able to come out of your room and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, whatever.
Well,
you're just going to post a note and leave it?
Either not able to, or he doesn't want to because he really despises them. And there were neighbors that said that they didn't even know that he did live there, because he would leave very early in the morning while it was still dark. And by the time he got home from work, it would be dark. So there was a lot of people living on that street that never actually saw him. Now, one thing that is very important is that Charles actually owned the home that they all lived in. He had purchased it off of his parents, but it was alleged that his parents were constantly taking loans out against the home and not telling him about it.
Well, that would be some reasons to be kind of angry with him.
So if they were abusive to him as a child, then you have this money issue. Not saying it's reason to kill them and butcher them, but obviously there was some animosity there. There's no doubt about that. So what happened to Charles? That's what we got to figure out. And really what you have is a lot of speculation that he fled to Canada. Some people believe that he fled to Mexico. There were even some people that thought he was living out in the woods of East Texas, because apparently he would camp there on a regular basis. But I think a lot of people thought that it was the Mexico theory that was the most plausible, because Charles had worked in Mexico, in South America. He had a network of friends there as he was working in that geophysicist role. Another theory that was put forth was that during his naval years, he had special intelligence training. And we know he did because he worked at the Office of Naval Intelligence. So the theory there is that when he left the Navy, he joined the CIA, worked for Shell for that period of time, left Shell, and then took an assignment with the CIA. And this theory was actually talked about in a book that was published in 1992, and it was a book called The Man on the Grassy Knoll. So obviously the book is about the assassination of John F. K., but they would get into probably David Ferrie, and at some point they talked about Charles Rogers. And the book actually alleges that Rogers was a CIA agent who likely impersonated Lee Harvey Oswald in Mexico City, and along with another individual was one of the two shooters involved in the assassination of Kennedy. The authors of the book also allege that Rogers was one of the three men that were arrested in Dealey Plaza after the assassination, and that Rogers murdered his parents because his mother had some knowledge of his telephone calls and found one of his notebooks detailing out this CIA activity.
So, man, conspiracy theories big time, right?
Oh, yeah. And what event that has happened, well, outside of 9/11, has more conspiracy theories than the assassination of JFK?
So this has a lot of conspiracy theory stuff going on in it.
Well, it really does. And if you think about the assassination of JFK, I mean, what else has more conspiracy theories around it than that? I mean, maybe 9/11. There seems to be a lot of conspiracy theories there, but I'm not even sure if it's more than JFK. But one of the conspiracy theories that you read about is that the man that they allege that Rogers was with in Mexico City is a man by the name of Charles Harrelson. He's alleged by people to have been one of the two shooters involved in the assassination. And what's interesting about Charles Harrelson is that he's the dad of Woody Harrelson.
Woody.
The famous actor.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, it's cool how it's related to Woody, but, probably not cool on what's been said. It's just one of those things. I mean, I know we're getting away a little bit, but when you talk about JFK assassination, it's so many different tie-ins.
It's easy to get off track.
Yeah, because there's so many different theories behind different people's involvement and what really happened, what didn't happen, and
I think it's just like David Ferry says in the movie JFK.
Yeah.
Right? It's a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma.
Yeah.
I love that line.
It really is.
From that movie. But talking about this 1992 book, the authors even claim that Charles Rogers was a hitman for the CIA and was involved in the Iran-Contra affair as well.
Well, that was pretty big, too.
They got this guy involved in everything.
Yeah, his hands are he must be like just that good.
And there have been people, Gibbs, that have gone on record as saying that they saw Charles Rogers as being one of the, what they called the three tramps, right? That's what they're referred to as the three men that were arrested and mysteriously released by Dallas PD after JFK was killed. But there are people that also believe that Charles Rogers was the handler of James Earl Ray in the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
Wow.
They got this guy into everything.
Yeah. Who could have done it? I don't know. Let's put Charles.
Let's just say Charles Rogers was involved. But getting back to the murder of his parents, right? I know we got off sidetrack, but there's a lot of strange tentacles to this case that, make it fascinating. Police, they're trying to find Rogers, as we said, as a material witness in what became known as the Icebox Murders. And they look for him in some of these different places that we've talked about for 10 years. They're not able to locate him. And it would be in 1975 that a Houston judge would declare Charles Rogers legally dead so that his estate could be probated.
I mean, that's big news. I mean, they made every effort. They can't find him. Everywhere that people say he was, he's not.
Or if he really was with the CIA, he's just that good.
So I think if you really are in the ops field with the CIA, you're going to be difficult to find. So,
if you don't want to be found,
yeah,
you're not going to be found.
Yeah, I mean, real CIA ops they're there for a reason. They know that they have that skill level.
But you think about after 10 years, what else can they do? At some point in time, after a person's been missing for that long, eventually they have to be declared legally dead at some point. I don't know what the correct number of years is, but this case is a mystery. It's officially unsolved. And really, Charles Rogers to this day remains the lone person of interest. I don't think, Gibbs, anybody else's name really came up in the investigation.
So if you think about it, they never found a weapon, right? They didn't find the hammer. They never found the gun. They found the keyhole saw that was used to, looks like maybe cut, right? But that's it. That's the only thing they found. They found a bloody spot on a Sunday newspaper. They found, like you said, we mentioned, the couple blood spots on the keyhole saw that they assume must have been used. But otherwise, they don't have anything else. That's it. They have the body, but there's no evidence on the body. It was washed.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on it earlier, but for a crime, a murder that was extremely gruesome, right? Not much to go on as far as evidence, because whoever did this seemed to be very skilled at covering their tracks. And we talked about the house at 1815 Driscoll Street. That was the house that the Rogers lived in. It's where the murders took place. And after the murders, the house remained empty and unsold. Probably not too shocking that would be a hard house to sell. You'd have to be a real estate agent extraordinaire to spin that one.
Yeah. Maybe today you might be able to sell it, because there's a lot of people that like that freaky stuff, man. They want to stay in a home like that.
You mean like all the people that are listening to our podcast?
Yeah, you freaky people.
Who was it? We were talking about the Amityville. After we did the episode on the Amityville.
Right.
I know it came up big time on social media about, would you stay in that house for X amount of dollars. And I know I was one that said I would.
So I'd stay at the house we're talking about now before I'd stay at the Amityville Horror House.
Well, I probably would too, because this house doesn't have any of the quote unquote supernatural elements to it. I'm using my fake air quotes. But either way, if you gave me enough money, I'd stay at both of them.
Yeah, that's true. Money trumps.
Money trumps fear in a lot of aspects for me. The house was eventually torn down in 1972. After a while, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, eventually you got to say, time to go.
But what really struck me as odd was that even the lot, right? So the house is torn down, but even the lot remained empty until 2000. So for 28 years, there was just an empty lot there.
They say that occasionally people would come by, like they do. Yeah, they
sure.
do that kind of stuff, crime scene tours and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, if I happened to be in the neighborhood, I would stop by. But it would be in 2000 when some condominiums were built. So there are a lot of people that believe Charles Rogers planned the murder of his parents for years because his father was abusive and he didn't like either of his parents. Some people describe them as, quote, devious con artists. So hate to kind of, bag on the victims here, but you have to point out some of the things that people have said about them because it leads directly to why and who may have killed them. Now, it was alleged that Fred Rogers worked as a bookie. And so if that was true, he would have been engaged in illegal activities, gambling, fraud.
Yeah.
Things like that.
And maybe that's why they had problems with money, that they were constantly taking loans out on the house.
Yeah. And it's in the beginning, I talked about the fact that, so you have an 81-year-old man, a 72-year-old woman. You wouldn't think that these people would have been involved in something that would have gotten them killed. But when you look into it, it's alleged that maybe they were. Now, I don't know if he was into it at the age of 81 still.
Right. Doubtful, I would think.
But
you're going to have all kind of theories on here because it's never been solved.
Yeah. And another theory is that they not only abused Charles as a child, but they continued to do so into adulthood. As he was an adult, that they somehow were abusing him. And like we talked about, possibly also stealing large amounts of money from him. So we talked about one of the theories was that he fled to Mexico, into South America. He had experience in those areas through his work. And people have theorized that he eventually made his way to Honduras, and that's the place where he was killed over a wage dispute with miners. So apparently, in this theory, Rogers is in Honduras. He's working for a company using his special skills to, find coal veins and that type of stuff. The company that he's working with is involved in this big time wage dispute with the workers. And he gets caught up in this and takes a pickaxe to the head and is killed. Again, all theories, right? Everything we're talking about is nothing but theories.
Yeah, so if all that comes together and is true, all these theories, what a full circle that would be, because he took a claw hammer to his dad and he takes a pickaxe to his head. So, I mean, it's like full circle, man. It's like the Lion King.
The circle of life?
Circle of life, man.
It's more like the circle of death.
Well, he took a life by a claw hammer, and now his life's been taken by a pickaxe.
And it came full circle.
Full circle.
That's assuming that you believe all these theories are true. But I get that.
Yeah.
It would be full circle.
I think, for me, that's a pretty viable theory. Knowing his skills, that he could have been in Houston, traveled through Mexico, found through his contacts some place in South America to work, Honduras, Costa Rica, Venezuela, wherever, And maybe some locals turned on him because of the power that he was building up for whoever hired him, and that's what happened.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's viable, given the fact that in his previous work, he had worked in Mexico. He had worked in some of the South American countries. He would have had contacts.
Sure.
He could have made his way down there. He probably could have gotten work.
Yeah.
And he could have stayed off the grid.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, in October of 2003, a novel written by Hugh and Martha Gardner was released called The Icebox Murders. And this book kind of puts forth a lot of the different theories that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it was written well. It's not a tough read. I mean, it's 200 pages, so somebody like you, Mike, can knock it out in a weekend, and somebody like me, I'm still on chapter 1.
I was going to say it's not a tough read for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll be on chapter 1 still.
That's a year-long read for you, brother.
Hey, I skim that in one breakfast sitting.
But you have to talk about this murder and its effect on the community of Houston. Because in 1965, this would have been very publicized, a very horrific incident.
Yeah, this is some scary stuff in the city of Houston.
But it's eventually going to be overshadowed by other events that are going to take place later on. You've got the Lost Boys case with Candyman Dean Corll,
Which was huge.
We haven't covered that one yet. A lot of people have asked for it, but it has been covered a lot on a lot of podcasts. We'll do it eventually. And Corll, big time killer. Probably had a minimum of 28 victims. That series of killings happened in the early 70s, so not long after the murders of Fred and Edwina. So it would have overshadowed them pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would think so.
Corll was a much different type of animal, right, Gibbs? I mean, he preyed on younger males, usually in their mid-teens, and he tended to abduct kids from low-income neighborhoods, but around the Houston area.
Right.
So in the same general location, same city. And he also had some accomplices, and I don't want to get too much into it because I know this is one that we'll want to cover in depth on a future episode of True Crime All the Time. So I always thought that this was a fascinating unsolved case.
It really is.
For a number of reasons, right? The ages of these elderly victims, the horrific way that the murders occurred, the fact that they were found in the refrigerator, and then you get into the fact that really the main suspect, or really not suspect, the main person of interest is their son.
Right.
All of the interactions that happen, the family dynamics, I should say, lead people to believe that he would have a reason to have killed them. And then you get into all these side plots and twists and, talking about the assassination of President Kennedy. And,
MLK.
Yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. The fact that Charles Rogers somehow knew David Ferry, had met him. And then there's a lot of evidence that, I don't want to say, it doesn't prove some of the theories, but it really makes you wonder how much of them are true.
Right.
Because there are people that have gone on record. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't know, but they have stated on the record that they saw Charles Rogers in Dealey Plaza.
Right. I go back to at the beginning, the house clearly had to be somebody that really hated Fred to do what they did with the eyes and the genitalia. So, I mean, maybe Charles was sexually assaulted. So I can understand why he would cut off his dad's junk, and then really why he would gouge the eyes, right? Because that's what this evil person to him was his dad. So seeing his dad, he didn't want to see those eyes. So if it was him, I can see why he did that. And then I can also understand why he just executed his mom. instead of doing something more brutal like he did to his dad.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I get what you're saying. I'm not sure understand is the right word, but I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I'm not justifying.
Sure.
I'm just saying I see why his mindset would have went there.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point because he does some extracurricular things to his dad that he doesn't do to his mom.
Right.
He kills her, he shoots her, but he doesn't mutilate. He cuts her up, dismembers her, but he doesn't do the things that make you think this is a crime where I'm getting back at you.
Right.
Like he does with his dad.
Right.
If it was him.
Yeah. And so the bigger problem for me with all that is if you had this type of anger towards your parents, why be in that situation? I mean, clearly money wasn't too big of an issue for him. So why just let them live there and you go live somewhere else? I mean, what was the draw? What was the need to be there? Or unless they just really got into his head and controlled him and he thought he needed to be there. But if he was a CIA op, that wouldn't have really happened.
I don't know. There's some dichotomies here because, could it be psychological and that's the reason why he felt like he had to be there?
Right.
But then again, like you said, if he's this, intelligence officer and trained, and you would think he'd be able to sort those things out.
You would think his reasoning skills would be very high. Yeah, I mean, and then you dive into all the conspiracy theories, and to me, that's just that's very interesting.
But the one thing that gets me is the fact that he's never been found.
No.
So that makes me go to a place of either, he committed these murders and was able to go on the run for however long.
Right.
And then maybe he died, like we talked about, and his body was never identified or nobody ever put it together. He was dumped in a shallow grave. A million different things could happen.
Sure.
Or he wasn't any of these things. He was just a geophysicist, and somehow he was killed as well.
Right.
And his body just was hidden so well it was never found.
Never found, yeah. Because they still, they didn't find all the body parts of his parents.
Yeah. And maybe it was made to look like he committed the crime.
Sure.
But in reality, he was a victim as well and disposed of in a way that, and if you think about it, that would make sense if you go with that theory. They would not want his body to be found.
No.
Because then you would take away the element of he did it.
Right.
Because how's he going to do it and then end up dead himself?
Exactly.
So
they keep everybody guessing, keep going around circles.
But those are the ones we like.
We do like it. We really do, because you just...
And it drives some people crazy.
Yeah.
But for me, I like the fact that I can go down all of these avenues, weigh the different things for myself, and try to figure out what's likely, what's more plausible than this part. And
right.
So, but either way, that is the case of the Icebox Murders, Fred and Edwina Rogers, and then, really Charles Rogers.
Yeah.
Huge part of the case.
Absolutely. He plays a huge role.
Because we really talked about him more than we did Fred and Edwina. There's just not a lot about them.
No, the case is so old that there's just not so many details about them, in their life.
Yeah. All right, Gibbs, we've got some voicemails. You want to dive into those?
Voicemails. Love voicemails.
Love them.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Nikki. I'm calling from Columbus, Ohio, from the 614. And I just wanted to thank you guys for an awesome podcast. My mom actually passed away this last summer, and I had to fly out to Arizona, but then I had to drive her stuff back home to Ohio and literally listen to you guys all the way with my headphones on, because I did have my two children with me, but I was paying attention and I was wearing my seatbelt. But I just want to tell you guys you're great. You helped get my mind off of a pretty hard time by listening to horrific and horrible people do horrible things, and basically make me appreciate my childhood. I was wondering if you guys had ever looked into the missing women of Chillicothe. I guess that might be like an unsolved podcast thing, but I'm not sure if all these women are linked, if it's just a drug underworld thing or what, but it might be something worth looking into. Anyway, you guys are great, and you guys be safe and keep your own time ticking.
All right, great voicemail from Nikki.
614 in the house, yo.
In Columbus, not very far from us at all.
Yeah, just up the street.
And she touched on a couple of things, Gibbs. So, and we've heard this, from time to time about the podcast helping people get through difficult parts of their life. And I'm glad that it can do that.
Yeah, if we can help you get through or cope with something going on in your life for that hour that you're listening to us, then, man, that means the world to us.
No, it really does. And then talking about, the case of those missing women in Chillicothe, I don't know if you saw it, Gibbs, but they did a kind of a mini series investigation.
About a year ago.
I think it was on A&E.
I did see.
It was good.
Yeah.
And I think we could do some episodes on that, but I definitely think it would be more than one. It's a pretty big case.
There's a lot of detail there.
There is. But we'll look at it for sure.
Thank you.
Hello, Mike and Gibby. This is Dixie Falk. And Mike, I just want to tell you, you and I have so much in common. I hate the beach. I love Justified. I've just finished watching it for the second time. And the funny thing is, his name is Raylan Gibbons. I grew up beside a man named Waylon Gibbons as I was growing up in Owensboro, Kentucky. Again, the other day, I heard you all were talking about some famous people, and you said Sam Cooke. I love Sam Cooke. I'm a diehard Sam Cooke fan. I thought, you know what? We may be twins separated at birth, except I'm old enough to be his mother, which maybe he was my twin. I didn't know I had. But I love your podcast. I want to tell you, I not only love your podcast, I like you two very much personally. You're great guys. You lead me through the story so that I feel that I'm there. But you're also, I just think you're just nice guys. And I'm so glad to have someone of your caliber. You are by far my favorite podcast, both the Unsolved and the regular one, the True Crime All the Time. I don't want to take up your time. I just got to thinking, you know what? People say enough things when they don't like something. So I just wanted to tell you how much I really enjoy your podcast and enjoy listening to both of you. So keep your own time ticking. Bye-bye.
So Dixie can take up our time anytime she wants.
Anytime.
And I feel a special kinship with her.
Oh, sweet Dixie, man. I love it, man.
The Justified, you know what a fan I am of Sam Cooke.
I just want to go visit.
Dixie?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go down to her house. I'm sure she'll cook us up something.
I would.
She sounds like she'd be very hospitable.
Yeah.
That's a little Southern hospitality.
She's got that welcoming voice.
Yes. So we appreciate it, Dixie, and we might be connected in some
you really could
strange way.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool?
We got a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Laura. I'm calling from Vermont. I am a new listener, and so I'm just catching up. But one thing I wanted to note about your Israel Keys episode, which was episode 25, I believe you noted that the police were never able to find the house or the bodies of the couple, the couriers who were murdered. And actually, they knew the house as it had been abandoned, which is why Keys chose it. But it had been demolished before the police knew Israel Keys had killed them, or even that they had been killed at all. So at that point, the demolished home had all been brought to the landfill in Coventry, Vermont, where they searched, but their remains were never found, sadly. So Vermont police aren't actually as incompetent as you made them sound, even if we don't have a lot of crime here, and certainly not a lot of murder, which I guess is all the more shocking that Israel Keys chose to come here and randomly murder a really nice, loving couple pretty fast. But anyway, I'm really enjoying the show. It's great. You guys have great chemistry. So keep up the good work. Thanks.
All right, great voicemail. And Gibbs, that's actually something that I heard quite a lot after that Israel Keys episode.
Right.
So obviously I misspoke when I was talking about that house.
Yeah.
And kind of got my facts a little twisted around. So,
but we love the Vermont police. Nothing against Vermont police.
Nothing against Vermont police, but I mean, obviously, we make mistakes from time to time. There's no doubt about that.
And you guys got great syrup.
You like their syrup up
They
there?
got good syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
Let's
I'm
throw
a
that
log
out.
cabin man myself.
Are you a log
Oh,
cabin?
that's my favorite.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever had like some real authentic from the tap type.
You never tapped one yourself?
No,
before?
no.
Oh man, get you a tap. You go out and tap
Have you
one.
done that? You talk about stuff that
Yeah.
you will. And
You can go right around. I can take you around here somewhere and you tap one. You'd see how you like it.
here in Ohio.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get syrup from it.
Yeah.
No, I think you're full of it.
You get the syrup. You have to do a few things to get it where you're edible, but yeah, you could tap it.
I'm going to have to get me some real authentic Vermont maple syrup.
I'm
How
gonna
about
buy-
that?
Well, yeah.
Why don't
That's
you
good
buy me
stuff.
some?
Why should I be buying you syrup?
Because I'm the one who's always saving you when you go down your strange movie paths.
You okay?
That's at least
I'll
worth-
get you a jar of authentic Vermont syrup.
All right. We appreciate the voicemail, though. And it just goes to show, I mean, we try to play all the voicemails.
We do.
And that voicemail was great. It wasn't critical. It was just at that one point. We like it when people say, hey, you might have got this one little thing wrong.
We play the ones when the FBI wants to come
Still worried about that one, but
throw me up against the wall.
at least the guy, he likes the podcast. so
Yeah,
I still
exactly.
get a kick out of that one. All right, everyone. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike,
And Gibby.
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.